Well, hey everybody, welcome back. That is the background flat from Downtown Deco I am moving on to. And what I've been doing is sanding the edges of it, the bottom, and the sides, and the top, sanding them square, or close to square. And I've fashioned myself a little sanding block. That's just a 1x2 and a scrap piece of nice flat birch plywood. And I've got some sandpaper on here, and I kind of hold the two together. And then you can see the little scrape marks there. I just rub the pieces up against the sandpaper to straighten them out. So I've done those three pieces. And if I pan up here onto the layout, I still have those couple to go. So that's sort of the first step. It's kind of cleaning these things up. Is getting these things sanded. I'm gonna get them glued together. The instructions say to use 5-minute epoxy. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll come back as I'm gluing. All right, so sanding done. The pieces all fit nicely up against each other now. The sides are mostly square. Did the same on the bottoms and the tops. And also, just kind of following the instructions, the windows and doors, wanted to make sure those fit, and there were some places to, clean up the plastic windows and doors that fit into the little notches all over the place. A couple of windows, a couple of doors, but also the plaster itself needed to be scratched here and there, just to kind of open some of those things up a little bit to get those to fit nicely. So each one of them fits where it's supposed to go, so I'll pull those off, prepare those for painting, and we'll be moving on towards gluing this all together now. All right, quick little in progress here. Just got some weights holding that paint stirrer I showed. It's glued to the back of the 5 pieces that make up the wall. It's just there to brace it up. So got a good bit of epoxy on there, weighting it down with whatever I could find that's heavy. And while that's curing, I went ahead, and if I turn over here to the spray booth, got the windows and doors in basically the way they sit on the structure, so I know which ones are which. I know each one fits in its spot. So I just taped them down using some masking tape, and used the airbrush. And so it's just got a quick little coat. I'll show you the two paints we put in there. The primer was XF66, and then the final color was olive green XF58. So that's the windows and doors. I will weather, rust, etc. these things, but that's just the base color. And that's just something to do while we wait for the main structure to cure. All right, I'm out in the screen porch, which used to serve as my spray booth, but this is too big for the one that I have now out in the garage. So brought it out here. Didn't use the airbrush. I just used a spray bomb of flat white. A couple of coats on here, just as a priming step. Again, following the directions. And there's kind of something pretty cool that comes with using that white later. It's kind of like, instead of a dry brush, you actually take a little bit, like kind of buff a little bit of the brick color off for the highlights instead of dry brushing. So that's what the directions said to do. Thought I would try. All right, just doing a little base layer paint here, and I used the terracotta color, just as the directions say. And some of them I tinted with brown, and some places it was tinted with a little bit of white. But it's all got that base sort of terracotta color to it. That's the brick itself. Then I came in, on the stonework and just hit some different grays and a little bit of khaki color there. Came in with some concrete color on some of the trim. That windowsill is brick, so I just left it as brick. But as you come over here, like the header on that door, coming over here, that door there, and the one on the right, and that windowsill there, all sort of concrete. And it looks a little, not so great right now, but that's just the base color. I'm gonna be coming in with a bunch of different washes to really tone some of those differences down. And I think it's gonna be okay with the washes. So more to come. That's just what it looks like with mostly terracotta and a little bit of a base color there. More to come. All right, with a good bit of raw umber washes and and a little bit of some gray and black type washes on the stonework at the bottom. That is what it all looks like. I've got to say, I'm pretty happy with it. None of the doors or windows or anything is in place. This is just the 5 cast plaster pieces. No details other than what was molded in there. So now I am moving on to the detail parts. Just thought I would show that before I do any work with the details. Alright, so details wise, this kit does come with quite a bit. I'll kind of walk through what it came with and what I'm going to use. So, a couple things over here, sort of miscellaneous. There are some security gates, I guess, for in front of windows. There's some lights that aren't really lights. There's some wire that I think he used for razor wire and maybe some electrical wire as well. Of course, you got the clear plastic for behind the windows, and this printed, I assume these little metal sheets are maybe to make an awning above some of the doors. I'm not sure what the construction paper is for. Kit doesn't really say. There's a couple of pieces of this thicker wire that I assume is for piping. It came with a drinking straw, which he used. I think it's kind of cool. I may or may not do this, but right there, that is some sort of vent. It came with a Tichy fire escape, so I put that together tonight. It was a couple parts. It wasn't hard to do. A couple parts there. Got it together. Airbrushed her with some Tamiya flat black and NATO brown mixed together, kind of a steel color. I'll come back and weather that. The kit comes with this 1/4 inch here. This 1/4 inch evergreen strip styrene. And so what I did is I cut a couple of pieces from the same strip, cut it at an angle, attached an extra piece, and I'm going to use it as a bit of a vent coming out the side of the building. I also notched every so often, and I just used this. It's not measured to scale or anything, but I just used the back of an X-Acto and notched it the width of this right angle, just to give it some interest. So I notched those out. I then used a rattle can of Vallejo Hobby Spray. This is that Panzer Gray, which is kind of a grimy black type color. I did come back and do a quick little wash of raw umber over the top. I'll weather that some more, probably add a little bit of rust or some kind of dirty mess to it. And then last, the Tichy windows, which I showed in an earlier clip. I have kind of weathered those up. Used a little bit of this AK Interactive, mostly the old rust, and then I came back and gave that a pretty heavy wash of that same raw umber wash that's on a lot of other things, just for some continuity. So those are the details I'm going to use. Kind of chuckled at this. It did come with some more of these castings. You guys might remember a few weeks ago I painted the whole, sorry I keep knocking the camera, I painted the entire set of castings that you can buy, just a whole set of castings. I did them all, then I opened this kit up and found a couple in there. I'm probably just going to use what I've already painted, but I've got those, and they'll go in my box of toys for some future project. So that's where we are with the details. I'm going to go ahead and continue weathering that stuff and get a few things attached, work on the windows, and put this kit to bed. One thing I didn't mention is it comes with these signs. Those are nice signs, but I think I want to do maybe my own signs, so I got to figure that out too. So I'll do that, details, and bring this kit home. All right, it's been a few days. I've been working on the details. You can see I've got the windows in with the glazing behind them. I painted a little bit of buff color mixed with a little yellow. I can really see it on that window there. Just for some little spots where the windows were broken and later repaired. I came over top of the fire escapes and those 2 vents there with a little bit of hull red, just a really light misting to give it a little bit of a rusty color. And I added this little conduit between the power box there and the top of that vent. That's some of the thicker wire that came with the kit. I kind of cut it and bent it to fit the Vallejo sort of grimy black type color. It's Panzer gray. Hit that first, then came back over it with the same whole red as the two vents. Put that in there. So this is really starting to come together now. Most of the details are here. Kind of liking how that's looking. So if I back out, you can kind of see where that's going to sit, kind of back in there. So it's not a prominent structure, it's more of a background thing, and I think it's going to work well. I may not do any signs. I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. I'm certainly not going to do any giant signs, because this is just in the back. It's facing, you know, a bunch of train tracks, and there's nobody over here to see any signs, and this is the back of buildings. So I don't know, I might put some like caution signs or danger or that kind of thing near the power boxes and call it good. Still thinking. But that's where it sits. The one thing that's missing on the fire escape so far is just the ladders. And I'm thinking I may want to get this in and do a little bit of the scenery first before I drop the ladders down, just so I can kind of work around the bottom of it first. So I've got the ladders painted. They're ready to go. I'm just not sure I want to put at least the one from the first floor down to the ground. I'm not sure if I want to put that one in there yet. So that's where it sits and how it's looking. All right, as I come down what I think is the final stretch on this project, just wanted to show you what I'm working on here. I think this is the last thing. It's the last thing I'm thinking I'm going to do. So these came off that sheet, kind of glossy paper. It's this corrugated, rusty metal, and there was a bunch of them just all in a row on one sheet of paper. I flipped it over and I painted it that nice Panzer gray, grimy black type color on the back. Then I cut them all out and went around the edges of them where it was white with just a burnt umber. Just dabbed it all around the edge so that there's no white showing. And what I think I'm going to do with these is use them kind of above doors like this, kind of as like a little something or other, like a shade above the door. The last thing I just did with them was spray a matte finish over the top of it, and it probably would have been easier if I had done that. That's why they're on tape. Would have been easier if I had done that before I cut them out, but I didn't think of it until after I'd cut them out. So got the matte finish on there. So I think those panels are ready to go. And then I grabbed the last two of those thicker wires and gave them the same grimy black treatment with whole red. That's XF9. Just misted over the top just to kind of give it a little bit of a rusty, kind of dirty, rusty metal look. And I'm going to cut those to length as the supports for these shades, I guess, for lack of a better word, that go above a couple of the doors. So looking at the structure here, I won't do that one because it's underneath some stuff to give it shelter anyway. I'll do that one, that one, that one, and probably one of those two. I'm not sure which one. Maybe the skinny one that actually has a doorknob on it. So that's what we're working on. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, this was trickier than you might think. But this is what I did. I've got these little mini clothespins holding on the shades, and I'm dipping the tip of the support bar in CA and then holding it up against it till it starts to set, and then letting gravity do the rest to hold it straight. And the wax paper is to keep me from gluing these things to my workbench. So that's how I'm doing it. We'll see. Hopefully I'll be able to move these things slightly as I need to get them straight up against the building. But that's the plan. All right, a little bit of Vallejo pigment later, and we are, I think, wrapped up with this build. So I'll just pull in real quick and show you the last little bit there. Along the bottom, I used that natural umber pigment. Let me go ahead and get those out of the way. All along the bottoms to kind of give it a little mud splattering effect across the bottom of the structure. And then I used a little bit of burnt umber in places where it made sense for there to be a little bit of a rust streak here and there. I did them underneath the fire escape and some other random places, and just kind of tidied things up a bit. Also, you can see where, if I pull all the way in, you can see where these little awnings, how they came together too, which I was pretty happy with how those ended up looking. So that is a wrap on this structure. I'm gonna go ahead and call that done for now. One thing I would point out, you might have seen in the last little clip there, is this ladder is hanging down vertically. Once I get some scenery up under here, it has enough give, I can kind of gently loosen it up to about there so it's parallel with the one above. But I left some room for scenery to go up underneath there. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this building. And this will complete the little sort of background, at least, behind the service track. So I can move on to some scenery there while I sort of concurrently begin thinking about what these next structures, this has fallen over. So I had shown this a while back, but a couple of plastic structures in here for the rip track area. So I'm going to be thinking about that. I'm not sure this is exactly the arrangement I want, but that's what's coming up next. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope everyone is well and safe.